I'm so pleased to introduce our speaker, Bill Reichert. He's a partner at Pegasus Tech Ventures. Pegasus Tech Ventures is a global venture capital firm with headquarters in Silicon Valley. It has invested in some of the biggest names in tech, including SpaceX, Airbnb, Robinhood, 23andMe, and SoFi. They mainly focus on AI, robotics, big data, health tech, and deep tech technologies. Their portfolio also includes companies with operations that ranges from Silicon Valley and across the US to Europe, Israel, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Southeast Asia, and beyond. And that's important because we have such a diversity in terms of geographies among our startup companies here out of XTC. Pegasus is also actively involved in supporting their portfolio companies by connecting them with its network of global strategic partners. And Bill himself has over 30 years of experience as an investor, entrepreneur, and operating executive, and he is a highly sought after expert and speaker worldwide. So with that, I'd like to turn over to Bill, please.
Thank you so much, Victoria. I appreciate it. Love the opportunity to be part of this group. I am honored and humbled to be part of this and part of this mission that you all have to make a dent in the universe and to change the world in order to make it better. So love the mission of the organization and what all of you guys are up to. So thank you so much. So I was asked today to talk a little bit about what it takes to be effective and successful when you are telling your story about your company, when you're pitching your company to investors, to customers, to partners, to potential employees. This applies sort of across the board. And let me share my slides and we'll jump into it, okay? So the main point that I want to get across today is that it's not good enough for you to describe what you're doing and to assert that you have great ambitions. You've got to do more than that. You've got to get them to say, wow. You got to get them incredibly impressed or excited about what you're doing. Because your harsh reality in this world, in this attention deficit, noisy, crowded, competitive world, is you have 20 seconds to be compelling or you might as well go home. And so when you think about it, people talk about their pitch as if it's this slide deck and, 5, 10, 20 minutes of time that you have to craft a presentation. Well, that's wrong. That's not true. Your reality is that 90+% of your pitches are going to be less than 30 seconds long. When you're introducing yourself, when you're showing up at a conference, when you're at an event, when you're talking to somebody on the phone, when you're in a meeting with other people, you're pitching. As soon as you open your mouth, you are pitching. Not to mention the fact that if you're actually standing in front of an investor, you still have got to grab that person within 20 seconds in order to engage them and get them to pay attention to what you're doing. So what is the secret to grabbing the attention of an investor or whomever you're talking to? The secret is Human Anatomy 101. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that what we know to be true is that an effective communicator engages 3 body parts. What are the 3 body parts that you have to engage? Well, the first, of course, is the head. So what you have to do is say something that makes sense. Believe it or not, this is a challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs. Why is this a challenge? Well, it's because most entrepreneurs, they're living and breathing their business, their technology, their product, their market, 24/7. So you're deeply immersed in it. And so often entrepreneurs, when they're trying to explain what they're doing to other people, they just don't realize that they're so deeply immersed in it that they're not being effective at communicating it to other people who are not immersed. So the first thing you have to do is be clear about what it is you're doing so that what you're saying makes sense to me. It's logical, it fits with my understanding of the universe. I can parse your words to understand what it is you're doing. So the first thing you have to do is connect with the head. Makes a lot of sense. The challenge is that most of us are taught by pitch coaches to spend 98% of their time on this. So when I was an entrepreneur, this was what I thought was the key to a good pitch. I had my 56 slide deck, and I had data, and I had evidence, and I had testimonials, and I had logic and graphs and charts. And I thought I would just overwhelm these investors with the power of my logic and data and evidence, and such that, by the end of my pitch, they would be forced by the sheer logic of what I was saying to invest in my company, right? Well, that's what I thought pitching was all about. And then I became a VC. And when I became a VC, I went to my other VC buddies and I asked them, sort of, what are the analytics? What are the algorithms? What are they using to figure out how to invest in companies? And what I discovered is there is no algorithm. There is barely even any logic. That in fact, the secret to getting the attention of an investor is not the head. We get all of this information all the time from thousands of entrepreneurs. It's not the head, it's the second body part. It's the heart. You've got to connect with the heart. Now, this sounds a little bit fluffy, and yeah, people say, you should tap the emotional spirit. It's more than that. It's much more than that. What you've got to do is you've got to get my heart beating faster. You got to get my pulse racing. You got to get me to say, wow, that's amazing. Tell me more. So wow is not an intellectual response, right? Wow is an emotional response. And so what I discovered when I became a VC was this epiphany for me, which is that VCs do not invest with their brains. Believe it or not, VCs do not invest with their brains. They invest with their hearts. They get excited about companies. They get engaged with companies. They fall in love with companies. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to figure out how to get an investor to fall in love with your company. It's not good enough to explain it clearly and logically. You've got to get them excited. You've got to get them to fall in love. So that's the second body part. The third body part is the gut. So this hopefully translates around the world, but we all know that as human beings, our first reaction to people, to ideas, to things that we hear or see, we have an instantaneous reaction as human beings. We have what we call a gut reaction. So we either trust or mistrust. We either believe or we don't believe. And this is not even a logical response. It's an instinctive response that we have as human beings. And unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs, they blow it on the gut check. What they do is they come across as being, so overconfident to the extent of misleading or misrepresenting or exaggerating what they're going to be able to do, that, when we hear these entrepreneurs coming at us with this over-the-top exaggeration about what they're going to accomplish, we back away. We don't trust them. We don't believe them. We have a negative gut response. So those are the three body parts you've got to connect with: the head, the heart, and the gut. So now, I wish I had you all in the room together, because I'd be able to, look at your faces and ask you this question. But what I want to know from you is, which of these three do you think is the most important? This is kind of a test to see if you're listening. So we don't have a lot of time to do a lot of chatting today, but the point is, it's the heart, okay? So the head is critically important, the gut is critically important, but both are insufficient. You got to get them to fall in love. You got to get them to, wow, that's amazing. That's what you have to do in order to separate yourself from all the other entrepreneurs that are out there, from all the other noise that we're hearing, from all the other competitors that are looking for investment checks. So you got to get them to fall in love, okay? So with that, let me share with you what is typical for what we get from entrepreneurs. Typically, the sort of thing we hear from entrepreneurs in their elevator pitches is something like this. Coolco is a dynamic startup company that has developed a revolutionary technology that is going to disrupt our $56 billion industry. Our team has over 45 years of combined experience, and we have 3 patents pending. We project that our curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting technology will blah, 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 right? So this is typical of what we get. You get my point, I hope. That this is not going to get us to wow. This is not going to excite us. We're not going to fall in love with this. The other end of the spectrum, a different example. This is a company that actually came into our office and they really said this. They said, we use a 2048 Diffie-Hellman key exchange and 256-bit triple DES to provide impenetrable encryption for your IoT devices. So, okay, now, I bet you some of you actually know what this means. Maybe, I don't know, but I'll tell you, the reaction you're going to get because you're so deeply immersed in your technology, you assume everybody else understands it as well, but instead what's going to happen is this. And, you know, the investors, they're going to start checking their cell phones and trying to figure out how to get out of this meeting. And you're going to be like this. You don't want to be here. Okay, guys? What you want to do is figure out how to get to wow. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about a framework to help you get to wow. And then afterward, what we've talked about is having a mini workshop here. I'm going to try to get some of you to volunteer to offer your 20-second pitch, your 20-second wow. And we're gonna critique it, provide feedback, you know, as a group. Okay, so all of you, I'm hoping you've already got your 20-second pitch. You already know what your wow is, but you know, just in case, let me give you a framework to help you get there. So now I start with the negative. Which is to say that there's a lot of stuff you've probably been taught that is just wrong. I'm afraid to say that there's a lot of pitch coach wisdom that has led entrepreneurs astray. So one of the things you get from pitch coaches is, you know, start with the problem, right? That just makes sense. You know, problem, solution. It sort of makes logical sense if you are guaranteed that you've got a fixed amount of time and that person is going to stay there and listen to you, whatever you say. But that's not the case of pitches. Pitches are not presentations. You are never guaranteed that the person is going to stay sitting there and is going to stay paying attention to you. So you've got to grab them at the beginning. The problem with starting with the problem is that most entrepreneurs, first of all, they sort of wander off into this long digression on what the problem is. And I'll tell you, for the most part, you know, venture investors, if they just were to understand what you're doing, it would be obvious the problem you're solving. But no, we get entrepreneurs, they come into our office, they have a clean tech solution, right? They're going to solve climate change. And so they come into our office and they kick off with a series of slides on how many trillion tons of carbon dioxide we're dumping into the atmosphere and how the, you know, oceans are rising and glaciers are melting. And we know this stuff, guys. You don't have to tell us that there's a climate change issue. And so then, you know, finally, 8 slides into the deck, they tell us, you know, we've got a device to capture CO2 from smokestacks. Okay, fine. You know, if you just told us that at the beginning, we know what you're focused on. Or, you know, they come in and they tell us how many people are dying from cancer. Okay. Or how many shopping carts are abandoned? Pick a problem, any problem. We know this stuff, guys. Cut to the chase. Don't start with the problem. 19 out of 20 pitches, if you just tell us what your solution is, we will know the problem you're solving. All right? Maybe for 5% of you, you have to clarify what your problem is. But for almost everyone, we know the problem you're solving if we just know what it is you're doing. The other thing pitch coaches tell you is tell a story, because we know it's true that human beings can absorb and remember a story than just a litany of facts. And so pitch coaches have always told entrepreneurs, tell your story, and that's the way to get your point across. Well, yes and no. I will tell you this, that if you can tell a story in one sentence, that can be very powerful. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But unfortunately, what happens is that entrepreneurs who've been coached to tell the story, they come into our office and they put up their slide and they say, but before I talk about the company, let me tell you a story. And when I was a child, my grandfather had a farm, and on the farm there was a pond, and in the afternoons I would go down to the pond with my grandfather, and we would look across the water at the trees beyond, and blah, 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 right? Okay, so yeah, it might be a nice story to tell. It might be interesting or motivating at some level, but yeah, maybe you tell the story, later over a drink or at some other point, but you don't have time to tell your origin story, your childhood motivation for doing this when you are trying to grab someone's attention. The other thing that every pitch coach says is, those VCs are greedy bastards. And so, they want you to be a unicorn. And the only way you're going to get there is if you show them a big market. Well, I'll tell you, this is bogus advice. The result is every entrepreneur, they go Google the size of their market. The artificial intelligence market is going to be a $36 billion market by 2025. Who cares? We know that artificial intelligence has the potential to be a significant opportunity for building a business, whether it's 35 billion or 2 billion or whatever. That's not going to be the difference as to whether or not you succeed. It is misleading and it is distracting. I have never seen a company fail because the market was too small. The problem with entrepreneurs is not that their markets are too small. The problem is they can't get customers. There's almost always enough customers out there to build a big business. The challenge is, can you get the customers? That's what we care about, not how big the market is. Now, having said that, there are plenty of people, plenty of investors out there who are going to ask you, what's your TAM? So you've got to, you got to figure out how to explain the size of your market. What you need to do is bottom up, target customer times the price that you're going to charge. That's how you scale. That's how you show the scale of your market. So be disciplined about market sizing, but don't think that just because Google says you have a big market, that investors are going to be motivated. And then last, there are lots of people who have the perfect template, and we have the perfect template on our website too. So the problem is the perfect template is not right for your company, because you need to frame your company pitch on the challenges that you face, the most obvious issues that you have to overcome, the questions that people are going to ask about your business in that sequence. And that's different for every company. So the templates that are out there will be misleading if you just take a template, fill it in, and think you've got a great pitch. It's almost certainly not the right sequence, not the level of emphasis that you need for your company. So this will not get you to wow, okay? This will not get you to wow. How do you get to wow? So what you have to do is be clear what you do, be compelling, and be credible. So these are the 3 C's that govern every marketing communication. Every marketing communication that you do from now on needs to pass this test. It's got to be clear what you're doing or the point you're making. It's got to be compelling. And this is the part where you get the heart racing. What do I mean by compelling? Compelling means that you have a value proposition. You deliver an incredible benefit that is 10 times better than anyone else. That's what we mean by compelling. Compelling is not, I'm going to solve climate change, or I'm going to eliminate poverty, or I'm going to cure cancer. That's not compelling. Why isn't that compelling? You would think it would be compelling because it's not credible. Because it's not credible. That's the third C. So compelling means you've got proof that you can make a dent, that you are 10 times better, 1/10 the cost. Then you've got to be credible. You've got to give us evidence that what you are saying is true. Because believe it or not, we don't believe a lot of entrepreneurs because they have a tendency to exaggerate. That's the head, heart, gut. Be clear. Be compelling. Get my heart beating faster. Be credible. Give me evidence so that I can believe you. Don't come across as exaggerating. So those are the key principles. How do I incorporate that into a 20-second pitch? Well, if you can put this into a 20-second pitch, you can use it everywhere in all of your marketing materials. Obviously, we're talking today about pitching to investors, talking to customers, schmoozing at events, posting updates, recruiting employees. The point is that this framework applies all the time. This is key to all of your communications. Now, it's going to be different in each case. I'm not saying it is a static set of words for every application, but the key principles, clear, compelling, and credible, apply and concise in 20 seconds, apply all the time. So how do you do it? So here's a framework that you might use. First sentence, what is it you do better than anyone? What is a simple, clear description of what you do? It's amazing how many entrepreneurs don't have this. Now, pitch coaches say you've got 8 words or you've got 12 words, or they say, your grandmother has to understand it, or a 6th grader has to understand it. Don't worry about that. Just give us a clear, simple, understandable, memorable sentence that describes what you do. So the framework I think of is simple TechCrunch language, right? So if you can, in sort of simple business language, explain the way a good reporter would explain what you do. So, a good reporter is not going to write a story saying, I met this company that has a curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, change the universe technology. A journalist will not say that. What is the sentence a good journalist would write to describe your company? Do you have that sentence? Why don't you share it with the world so that people who want to write about your company have that sentence? So you need that sentence. What is it that you do? What's a clear description of what you're doing? Okay, so we're 8 seconds into your pitch. Okay. Second sentence. What is the compelling benefit that you offer to whom? So this is your value proposition. This is not a list of your features. This is not an exaggeration of your revenue potential. This is not the size of your market. Your compelling benefit is the value you deliver to your target customers. We are 10 times better. We're 1/10 the cost. We last 5 times longer. One of my favorite pitches of all time was a 10-second pitch. This entrepreneur walked up to me and said, Bill, what if I told you we can accelerate big data analytics by a factor of 100x using the same hardware? That was her pitch. I mean, boom. So do you have a sentence like that offers a compelling, ideally quantifiable benefit that your customers realize? So another way to put this is to start the sentence. To start a sentence with the big idea behind our company is X. What's the big idea? So don't describe a whole bunch of features, a whole bunch of modules, a whole bunch of technologies, a whole bunch of revenue streams. Tell us, boom, what's the big idea? And quantify it if you can. Okay, that's the second sentence. You're 14 seconds into your pitch. Third sentence. So this is the validation. This is the credibility part of your wow. How are you different, and what is your proof? So, I got to tell you, the other thing I've learned as an investor is as soon as you open your mouth, what we're thinking is all the other entrepreneurs we've heard who are pitched us on pretty much the same thing. So it's extremely rare that we hear something new. It's extremely rare that an entrepreneur talks about their company and we say to ourselves, boy, we've never heard of this before. So what you've got to do is make it clear to us how you're different from all those other pitches we've heard before. So that might be a sentence that starts with, you might have heard other companies trying to do this, but unlike other companies, what we're able to do is this. So what can you do that no one else can do? All right. So boom, boom, boom. Clear description, compelling benefit, credible validation. Can you do that in 20 seconds? Maybe I'll give you 30 seconds. All right. So now, if we were in a room together, what someone would be doing right now is raising their hand and say, wait a second, Bill, you said don't use templates, and this kind of looks like a template. Okay, right. So I will tell you, this is a framework. This is a guideline for how to craft your wow. You need these 3 sentences anyway. So no matter what, you got to have these 3 sentences. No matter what, somebody's going to say, so what do you do? And what are you going to say, right? You got to have the first sentence. Somebody's going to say, what's your value proposition? You got to have the second sentence. And somebody's going to say, well, wait a second, how are you different from all those other? You got to have the third sentence. So you need these 3 sentences no matter what. But maybe you want to craft it in a different way. So there are lots of different ways to get your wow across in 20 seconds without doing boom, boom, boom. So one way to do it is if you can tell a story or paint a picture in 1 sentence, then I'll let you tell a story. So Bill, how do we do that? Okay, one way to do that is to start the sentence with imagine if. Imagine if you had an application that brought together all of your messages from all your emails, all your messaging apps, and all your social media apps into one place so that you could always find when people are trying to connect with you, right? So that's an idea. The point is, you want to paint a picture in the mind of the listener that clearly explains what it is you're doing. So it is true that stories are effective. The reason stories are effective is because what happens in our minds is we paint a picture, and that reinforces the message of the story. You can't go on for 2 minutes telling your story, but if you can say in 10, 15 seconds, imagine if, then you can get this impression across like that. So other things you can do is use an analogy or a metaphor for what it is you're doing. So the most common analogy that entrepreneurs use is comparing themselves to a well-known company. We're going to be the Uber of construction equipment, or we're the Airbnb of whatever, right? So be careful you don't exaggerate and imply that means you're definitely going to be successful. But if it's a way of communicating kind of what it is you're trying to do, then that could be effective. One example, a company, this is now a few years ago, their pitch was, we're going to be the Netflix of ebooks. And their point was that instead of buying an ebook one at a time, you could read as many ebooks as you wanted every month. Makes sense, clever idea. That was the cleverness behind Netflix. You don't pay for every movie. You just pay a monthly fee and you can watch as many movies as you want. So as it turned out, Amazon has then grabbed that idea, and Amazon has implemented that idea within Amazon, I think Reader or something like that. So use an analogy if that gets your point across more clearly. And then another thing you can do that is sort of totally different than anything I've said before is you can get to wow if you can drop a really big name. And it's true, right? So my favorite example of this was actually not exactly name dropping, but I was in New Zealand and I was actually judging an elevator pitch competition. And an entrepreneur gets up and says, "Hi, my name is Marcia, and we've developed a suite of software for the entertainment industry. And last year we won the Academy Award." And then she went on for another 3 minutes to talk about her technology and her product and all that. And at the end, I said, "Marcia, you had me at Academy Award." So if you've got something unbelievably credible, then make sure we hear it at the beginning. The counterexample, a team comes into our office, hour-long meeting, 55 minutes into the meeting, the template said, put the team slide at the end. We get to the team slide. And on the team slide, it says one of the co-founders is a Nobel laureate. And I go, "Oh my God, you're kidding. Bill Sharp is one of the co-founders of this company." And they said, "Yeah." And I go, "Why didn't you tell us this at the beginning?" They said, "Well, we wanted to end with a bang." I said, "Yeah, but if you had told us at the beginning, we would have listened." So make sure if you've got a really big name, you let us know at the beginning. We in the journalism business, it's called burying the lead. If you've got a big aspect of the story, put it at the top. So a couple of other quick tips, and then I'm going to ask for some questions and for some volunteers. But other quick tips, keep it simple. Again, I've asked you to craft these sentences. So every once in a while, an entrepreneur will go off and create these incredibly convoluted sentences. That's not going to work. The key to determining whether or not you've got a good wow is if you can tell a friend and the friend can basically repeat it back to you. That means they heard and understood and adopted what you said into their own brains, and we're able to feed it back to you. But if you try your wow on other people and they can't repeat it back to you, then it's not clear, it's not getting across. So you got to keep it simple enough that I can hear it, understand it, remember it, and repeat it. So the other thing that I just want to strongly emphasize is just make sure you are customer focused. So many entrepreneurs, you're spending time working on your product. You're so product focused. There's so many entrepreneurs that are product focused. And so when they start talking about their beautiful baby, their beautiful product, their elegant, wonderful, amazing technology. Yeah, that's okay. But at the end of the day, you don't have a business if you don't have customers. So we want you to be customer focused because that's where the value proposition lies. It's the benefit realized by customers. So if you're going to offer us a compelling value proposition, you have to be talking about customers. Use one or two numbers. You should quantify your benefit. A lot of entrepreneurs now, they have these slides that have 8 numbers on them. They have slides that have 50 numbers on them, and then they have 8 numbers they pull out. Nobody's going to absorb all 8 numbers. Somebody created this template slide. I don't know who did it, but they did a disservice to entrepreneurs where you pepper this slide with, a bunch of numbers that, this is our churn and this is our growth and this is our gross margin and this is our, our viral coefficient and whatever. So you have all these numbers on one slide. If you've got time to sit down and go through them carefully with someone, that's okay. But if you're trying to get through a presentation, we're not going to absorb all 8 numbers. So figure out what are the 1 or 2 numbers you want us to walk away with and really make sure you hit those hard. And then finally, of course, I'm telling you, don't lie, right? And I know nobody would intentionally lie. I get that. But the challenge is so many entrepreneurs have a tendency to exaggerate that sometimes it comes across as misrepresenting, as potentially lying. So we actually have a blog called The Top 10 Entrepreneur Lies, which you can go visit if you want. The other thing, just to wrap this up quickly, I've only said, Bill, you've only told us what to do in the first 20 seconds. What about the rest of the pitch, right? So one of the things that is a challenge for entrepreneurs is that most entrepreneurs are not being coached that there is no such thing as a perfect pitch. You need a different pitch for different situations. And you can't just, if you have an elevator pitch competition, you can't just take your full pitch and take out the 3 or 4 slides that you think are best and go to an elevator pitch competition. That's not going to work. You've got to craft a different pitch for different situations. And so we talk about the difference between a handshake pitch, which is basically, what do you do? The wow pitch is clear, compelling, and credible. The elevator pitch, which is 1 or 2 minutes, which gives you a chance to sort of fill in the blanks. A demo day pitch, which may be 3 or 4 minutes. A partner pitch, which may be 10 or 20 minutes. And then the pitch deck that you send ahead or leave behind. All of these are different. And so you need to craft a different pitch. It's going to be core messages are going to be the same. The themes, the story has got to be the same, but it's going to be different slides. In an elevator pitch versus a partner pitch. It's going to be different slides. They're going to have same themes, same points, but, different level of density is the other way to put it. So, and this is what we recommend as a checklist of the kinds of topics that you got to cover. Again, if you're a life science company, compliance, regulatory, FDA, whatever, you got to talk about that. That's not even in this list, right? So this won't necessarily solve all your problems, having this list, but you should know that this is what we expect as investors, maybe not in an elevator pitch, but by the time we're going to make some level of decision, whether we're interested, we're going to want to know the elements of each of these. So conversely, I did a blog called The Top 10 Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Slides, examples of how entrepreneurs blow it in terms of putting together their decks. And then I wrote a book with a co-author called Getting to Wow. So available at an Amazon.com near you. So that's Getting to Wow. And with that, what I'd like to do is open it up for questions. And, I'm not sure, Victoria, how much time we have here. I know you've got, I think I have 20 minutes left. I think that's right.
Yep, you've got 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to start with a couple of quick questions. Let's start with questions. Don't be shy, everyone. Just jump in and ask your question. Yeah.
Oh, here, Menov Iwan, you have a question.
Okay, there's some stuff in the chat that I haven't been looking at.
Yeah, I've been tracking. That's me.
Okay, all right.
Iwan, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Bill. Did you say that we can try to give our example of pitch and see how you break it down?
Cool. Yeah, are you ready for me, Iwan?
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Fortune favors the bold. I will tell you, it's always a test that I give any group that I'm talking to. Who is willing to volunteer? If you are not willing to volunteer, you are not ready. You are not ready to be an entrepreneur. So I'll tell you that. But so you got to be willing to stick your neck out there if you want to build a successful company. So Iwan, you're the man.
All right. Do we want to take the slide down, Bill, just so we can see people's faces?
Oh, good idea. Okay, Let's do that. Okay.
All right.
So Iwan, tell me, what are you up to?
So my name is Iwan. I am a founder of Manuf. It's a motorcycle. Can I give you the 20-second pitch now? Let's see.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Sorry. Okay. So, sorry. Right here in Asia, people commute using motorcycles. The leading cause of death for children and young adults is road traffic injuries. So Manuf is an affordable two-wheel electric vehicle that combines the safety and comfort of a car with the convenience and agility of a motorcycle.
Okay, all right. So that was maybe a little more than 20 seconds. That's okay. That was good. Okay. Hi, my name is Iwan, and I have a company called Manuv. In Asia, people get around using motorcycles. I knew that. Everybody knows that. In Asia, the leading cause of death of small children is traffic accidents. Okay, I'm guessing where he's going, but that's not a surprising fact. Manuv, we've developed a motorcycle that has the flexibility of a motorcycle, but the comfort of a car. So that's what I heard. Is that what you said? Did I miss something?
Affordable part.
Affordable. I missed affordable. Okay. Now, the good news, the brilliant design here is you have a picture of your vehicle behind you. So, that's really, really clever. And obviously for people who have software applications, that's a little bit harder, but if you have something physical, make sure that the image is available to us as easily as possible. So that helped a lot. But you heard, I gave you some of my critique sort of in real time. The good news is that I was able to hear and remember pretty much everything you said. For some reason, I missed affordable. I don't know how important that was, but it's reasonably obvious when you look at your image there that it can't be as expensive as a car. It's going to be a little more expensive than a motorcycle. So I figure it's somewhere in between. But and I guess what I'm saying is in Asia, people use motorcycles. I'm not sure that is the right way to lead because, again, that's an obvious statement to almost any investor that you're going to talk to, right? So why are you starting out with an obvious statement? What you might say is, at Manuv, we've developed a motorcycle that is more comfortable and safer than any other motorcycle while still being affordable. I don't know if that's true or not, right? But so if you say, we've developed a motorcycle that is more comfortable and safer than any other motorcycle and still is affordable, I know what you're doing. Fair? You see what I'm going? So I know, so you start off, okay, then you never close the loop on traffic accidents. So it's not obvious from anything you said that somehow you're going to save lives. So you asserted that traffic accidents is the number one cause of death for kids, but I'm not convinced that you solve that problem. So that's more
the source where what do you mean? Do you mean the source where I mean like this World Health Organization numbers where the leading cause of death for young adults and children are road traffic injuries?
I believe that, but I don't see the connection between your vehicle and safety.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand. I know where you're going.
Okay. I mean, it looks to me as though you're as likely to hit a kid with that as with any other vehicle or whatever. I don't know. And I guess now, and maybe your point is, and having been, having spent a fair amount of time in Southeast Asia, you see families on these motorbikes, and maybe the secret that you're addressing is kids don't fall out. Maybe that's the point. So that I get, as I think about it more, I'm guessing that's where you're going. Okay, so that wasn't obvious. So that was, some feedback. Okay, next.
That's good. Philip Davey from Brazen.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with a stressful day situation. You go to your doctor, tells you good news, bad news situation. You have a neurological condition. Good news is there's a wonderful new drug that can treat it. Bad news is they're going to have to inject it into your spinal cord every other week for forever. So what we do at Brazen Therapeutics is offer a nanoparticle formulation where this can be instead injected directly into your bloodstream and still be targeted to the brain. And we offer that to our pharma partners. And our big advantage is that you can package 50 times more drug inside one of our formulations than you can in leading competitors' approach.
Okay. Wow. That's a different kind of wow.
Hey, you said wow. That's good.
I know. Not every wow is the same. But okay. Hi, we're Brazen. Imagine you go to a doctor and you're diagnosed with a neurological condition. Good news, bad news. We can help with an injection. Bad news is it's into your spine every week or for the rest of your life. Here at Brazen, we've developed a formulation that crosses the blood-brain barrier by injecting it into the blood, and it's 50 times more medicine than they stick in your spinal cord. So that's what I heard.
Okay.
Am I close?
Well, the fact that you dropped blood-brain barrier in there tells me you know something about this already. Close, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So right. Okay. Fair point. I guess you did not say that. But that's okay. So you violated my, don't start with the problem rule. And in fact, what you're talking about is sufficiently complex that it's not going to be obvious, the problem you're solving to a lot of people. If they don't understand what the challenge is for this. In terms of feedback, some of the things you said, it's not obvious, it's not obvious to me that being injected it wasn't crystal clear that being injected in the spinal cord every week is that much worse than getting any other kind of injection. But yeah, I guess it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that that's terrible, right? I have, avoided that so far. But the things that weren't crystal clear, is the 50 times more drug per injection. That seemed like that would not necessarily be a good, safe thing. So somehow you're not getting the key benefit across. So it has something to do with a regular injection versus a spinal injection. I don't know if other than discomfort, is there any other therapeutic benefit compared with your approach versus the spinal injection approach? That wasn't clear. Are you more effective, or do you have to be 50 times more drug in order to be effective, which is scary to me? So you're in a tough space, right? You're in a tough space to explain. Most life science investors would get the blood-brain barrier challenge. And so you might just want to go right at it. Most therapies for neurological conditions, for brain, whatever. So many therapies for neurological conditions require spinal injections to get the medicine to the brain. We've solved that problem by doing something that nobody else has, that enables pharmaceutical companies to formulate therapies that can be administered with simple blood injections into the bloodstream. Isn't that that's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
Okay, but I'm trying to frame it in ways that are a little bit easier to get across. And I'm still the 50 times, and what you've got you said nanoparticles. That was the other thing you said.
Yeah.
You said nanoparticles. And that was, so nanoparticles can be all sorts of things. So are they, I'm trying to, and so now I'm thinking about the other pitches that I've heard, and I'm not sure sort of where the nanoparticles kick in. Obviously, in some way, they're a carrier. Somehow they're carrying the therapy across. And so in any case, the point, the feedback here is even for someone who's heard a fair number of life science pitches, you didn't nail the benefit. You forced me to infer the benefit, right? That's kind of what you did. And at the same time, you confused me with the 50 times and the nanoparticles. So, you're going to have to figure out another way to do this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You may not want to lead with nanoparticles. I don't know if you can formulate it. So, but somehow you want to lead with the challenge for many pharmaceutical companies is getting their drugs across the blood-brain barrier. And we've solved that problem.
Great.
A lot of life. Okay, I'm sorry.
I got two more for you. We got two more for him.
We do? Okay.
Yeah, I do. Oh, the hands are going up.
Okay.
Bill, Oscar, please unmute yourself and go.
2 minutes each. Okay. 30 seconds. Okay. Go. Who's up?
Oscar.
Yeah.
Oscar, where are you?
I'm up.
Okay.
So, Pellet Mexico is the first scalable platform in Mexico, transforming residues to energy to substitute fossil fuels for heat generation, delivering companies a renewable fuel, 30% cost reduction, and mitigation of CO2 emissions.
Boy, now, so Oscar, I got to apologize. So the audio is not great. I heard something about a company in Mexico that is the first company to do something that sounds like you're reducing the use of fossil fuel and carbon emissions. So that's all I got from that. So part of it was the audio, part of it was you were speaking pretty quickly. But so, it just didn't come across. What I got is you're doing something that reduces carbon emissions.
Yeah, we're transforming
Say it again.
residues.
Okay, give me one more time.
Okay. Let's say that. Our company is the first scalable platform in Mexico, transforming residues to energy by substituting fossil fuels for heat generation, delivering companies.
Okay, transforming something to energy. Transforming residues,
yeah.
Residues.
Waste, yeah.
Okay, what sort of waste? Residues. Okay, that I missed totally.
Yeah,
so residue does not work as a word. Residue does not work as a word. Okay, so you're waste to energy. Is that what
Waste
you are?
energy. That's right, yeah. And the residues are...
Okay. So every VC in America understands the idea of waste to energy. So say we're waste to energy, and then more specifically, what is your uniqueness in doing waste to energy?
Okay.
So what is
we're doing, we're transforming this waste, organic, agricultural, and forest waste into a solid biofuel. That's pellets. And the thing is that nobody is using these pellets in Mexico for heat generation.
Okay, and then you have pellet stoves for heat generation.
Yes, we do transformation for energy consumption, yeah. For pellet consumption, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. And do you also sell the pellet stove or your technology is the pellet manufacturing? That's
right. Yeah, the business model by our manufacturing of different plants in different parts of the country for substituting regional demand.
Okay. All right. Okay. I get it. So my apologies. Sorry. So residue doesn't work. Just keep it simple. Okay. Okay, and make sure we're focused in the right place. Okay, do we have time for one more? Do we have time, Victoria?
We do. Yeah, we do. We're going to finish up with two more, and then we'll be late to the next session. This is important. Thurston.
All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will. My name is Thorsten, and I'm from Diamond Tech. At Diamond Tech, we have developed a medical device that can measure your blood sugar non-invasively. That means without finger pricking. It works like the fingerprint sensor on your phone. You put your finger on our sensor, you wait for 10 seconds, and then it shows your blood sugar on the display. In a clinical study with 100 people, we showed that we have the same accuracy as invasive devices. We are very happy to come to market now.
Okay. All right. I totally get it. Non-invasive blood sugar monitoring with a device that can read your blood sugar through your finger. That's what you're saying, right? Okay. So there's an explosion in these non-invasive glucose monitoring technologies. You're saying that you do have data that says you are as accurate as fingerprint pricking. So I think it's great. The challenge you're going to have. So it's clear. So good news. Good news is that it's clear. And fundamentally it is compelling. The challenge you've got is all of the other non-invasive glucose monitoring technologies that are emerging. So how are you better? So we get that you're better than finger pricking. How are you better than all the other non-invasive technologies that are out there? That's where the investors are going to go. So,
there's no non-invasive device in the market right now. So we cannot buy a non-invasive devices that is as accurate as invasive finger pricking. And
so you're saying the patch is either you're considering it invasive or you're saying
there's like a sting in it that you have to put that goes into your skin, and you have to change it every 10 to 14 days.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then there are several companies that are doing this with wrist devices through the radial artery, and are doing similar types of non-invasive using just different technologies for measuring glucose. So, but you need to address the elephant in the room is not the finger pricking now. The elephant in the room is all of the other non-invasive technologies that investors are hearing about. And so, that's where
that's why we have like the clinical data to show that we are as accurate as invasive devices. And I think no one else can show that.
Okay. Now you got to be careful there, because I've heard at least 5 pitches for non-invasive glucose monitoring where they say, and we have the clinical data that shows that we are as accurate or more accurate than than the patch and other non-invasive devices.
That's
and finger prick, and the golden standard, right? Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my questions to your presentation. As you say, don't lie. Where's the line between selling the vision and lying?
Well, so what would help is, because, again, the challenge is I don't know which one of you entrepreneurs is lying, right? I got 5 entrepreneurs all saying we have clinical data, right? So that's the problem that investors have. So what helps is if you have a third-party validator. If you can say, instead of saying we have the clinical data, if you can say that,
Stanford, that it's published data?
That helps, absolutely. If it's published in a peer-reviewed journal,
absolutely, yes,
that helps. Then then drop that name, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be better. Okay.
All right, we got the last 2 more for you. Everybody else, if you want to, stay. Actually, stay. This is good. We got Chris, and then Andreas, and then we're done. Because we can keep going, but this is Tantalus, whatever. There's always 2 more left, right? But then we got to get to the next session. There are speakers there already, but
all right.
Yes, Chris, please do.
Very cool, Bill. Thanks for going over time. So Photokite makes a box. That box goes up on top of a fire truck, and when the firefighter pulls up to their response scene, they push a single button, and the photokite system deploys and provides overhead thermal and video to the firefighters on the ground to help them understand and respond with data-informed decisions. Our systems are already being used on a daily basis by major departments across the US, like New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago. And by delivering the very first scalable visualization solution in the public safety space, we're helping those teams save lives and stay safe on a daily basis.
Okay, so photokite, you put it on the truck, you put it in a box, and it launches and it takes a picture of what's going on visually and thermally in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. We save lives, right? So I think I got it. The thing I'm struggling, you call it photokite. I'm assuming it's a drone, but maybe it's not. I don't know. It can't be a kite. So
it's basically a robotic kite.
Okay, but I assume it has propellers?
That's right, yep.
Okay, so why don't you call it a drone?
Because it's always connected to the fire truck.
Okay, but you can have a connected drone, can't you?
That's true, definitely. So that's good feedback.
The fact that so this is, okay, so everybody understand that if you say something that confuses the brain of the listener, or causes the listener to have to work something out, then it's a distractor. Now, fortunately, the photokite, the idea is clear enough, and the value proposition is clear enough that I was still able to absorb the rest of what Chris said. But be careful about saying things that force us to have to think. Okay,
that's clear.
And so the word, I'm sitting there trying to imagine what he means by this kite that it gets deployed. So I have to assume it's propellers and something like a drone. So just, unfortunately, the name of your company is Photokite, I gather, right?
That's right.
All right.
So,
feedback.
all right. Okay.
Andreas, last one.
All
I'm
right.
going to hop over.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Andreas.
Hey, hi.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for getting the opportunity.
So what are you up to?
We saved the life of our patient number 1 with blood cancer. And then we built up a company. Our company addresses the heterogeneity of tumors using single-cell multiomics and artificial intelligence. It's a technology from Sidney Brenner, a Nobel laureate. We are now applying that to clinical centers in the US, in Germany, and in Singapore.
Okay. So what I got out of that is we cure blood cancers. And so you use, the phrasing, I'm being tough here. The phrasing, and I think it didn't work. First we cure blood cancer and then we build a company.
We saved our first patient.
Okay.
And then we realized we should build a company and enable
to
bring this to hundreds of patients.
Okay. That is so for whatever reason, just the way it doesn't flow quite right in terms of first we save a life and then we build a company. Okay. I get the implied was, first we save a life and now we want to save millions of lives.
Yeah.
Right? So save a life, build a company, so save a life, save millions of lives. That's the right trajectory. Okay, so then you're using something, I think you said multiomics, something like that. It sounds like proteomics mixed with some other omics. So, okay, so now you've gone beyond my ken. So I would be careful about using multiomics in terms of, I don't know if you're, so then you said, which was developed by this guy who was a Nobel laureate, and is some famous research university, some research center in Germany, I think is what you said. So, I'm back on what exactly is multiomics, right? And I'm back on save a life, build a company.
So single-cell multiomics is the method of the year by selected by Nature for 2020. And we are one of the top 10 spin-off companies selected by Nature addressing exactly that.
Okay.
Multiomics means you combine genomics and proteomics in order to quantify how different cells of a tumor are. And typically, cancer therapies fail because you have different clones and you treat one of them and the other come back and kill you.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So, so, forgive me, I missed that issue of Nature, unfortunately. But, so I think for most of the world, just say we combine genomics and proteomics to identify the diverse characteristics of cancer cells and treat all of them or something like that, right? But the Nobel laureate, that was good. And I think definitely, right. So definitely for the right investors, you're going to get the next meeting, right? So you got across something that was obviously compelling. So, good job. Just, I would smooth it a little bit, figure out another way to frame that.
I had a hard time to boil it down to 20 minutes, once it's typically like 2 minutes, and then probably makes sense. But thanks a lot for the feedback. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great. All right, boy, guys. I wish I could. I wish we could go through this with everyone. I'm sorry, but I hope. Again, as you can see, in each case, the feedback wound up being different. I mean, there were some common themes about clarity, but in each case, I was trying to model kind of the brain of the investor and what goes on inside the brain of the investor when you're talking, so that you understand that we're not going to understand everything that you're talking about. We're going to be distracted by some things. We're going to wish we understood or heard other things. That's what you got to work on, is, again, being clear, making sure that it's compelling, that you are clear about what the compelling value proposition is there, and that you address this credibility issue. Aren't there a whole bunch of non-invasive glucose monitoring technologies out there now, right? So that's, you're going to have to, address these three issues one way or another. I think each of you, good work. I hope you took my feedback in the way it was intended to be constructive, and that was useful to you.
Oh, I want to say, Bill, that was wow. That was not just great pitch advice, but also really smart communication skills in general. I've had a lot of takeaways. I want to thank you for taking the time to share these pitch secrets with our startups. And I want to thank everyone for your engagement, and check out Bill's book for more, because I'll be reading it for sure.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Let me know how it goes. I wish you all the best of luck, okay?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.